Well, hello, everybody. Let me see who's here. I can't see the comments yet. Comments. There they are. Hello, there you guys are. So fun to see everybody. Today is going to be a really fun day, a little bit different. I have some surprises for you, and I think that you're going to really like this. So let's start out just by seeing who's here. We've got Mary Inman from Sea Island, Georgia. Tanya from Tanya to you from Puerto Rico. TR Tube from Virginia. That's Teresa Roman. Teresa, hello. Elizabeth Nielsen from Sweden. Oh, Teresa, she changed her name. Good. Francoise. Hello, Francoise. Nice to see you. Beauty Kip Winandette from the Netherlands. Margaret from Chile. Iris Heidorn from Washington. Marie Tobita from New York City. Jackie Rickles from my hometown of Bakersfield. Deb Rohrbach from Ohio. Wendy Lang from Virginia. Rona Shane from Southern California, Deborah Harris from Cincinnati, Melanie Mycat and Kelly Mycat from New Hampshire, Lizanne from San Francisco, Nancy Porter from Washington State. They're having a heat wave. We always have a heat wave. So we know what heat's like in Bakersfield. It's everyone else gets shocked when it happens to them. Susan Day from Pacific Northwest, Renee from Atascadero, Bradley Trahan from Georgia, Sue McVicker, Harold James from Canada, Pam Zumwalt from Bridge, Oregon, McKinsey Bridge, Oregon, Arlette Garcia from Ontario, KK Skydotum from Virginia, Rosalind Tarenbaum from, oh, she says she's new. Rosalind, welcome to our live streams. She's one of my boot campers. And so this is the first time she's peeking in on the live stream. I think you're going to really like it. Diane Joel from Martinez, California, Carolyn Finnerman from Central Oregon, Carrie Hogan from San Jose, Demetria, Sidra, Leo, Joe Shamlofel, probably not saying it correctly, Judy from British Columbia, Kayan, hello Kayan, Judy Phillips, Sonia Estevez, Nathalie Gautier, Roxandra, Cindy McBride, bunches of people. Welcome. So this is Saturday, June 26th. Oh my goodness, it's almost July. Wow. And we're continuing on the ITAG SIS, which is the It Takes a Guild set-in sleeve sweater tutorial. It's a swatch to sweater tutorial. And we've also started working on another sweater in association with Frank Jernigan. We're doing a knit along with him. So we're going to have two different sweaters to talk about today. And I have a very special guest, and this is, I'm going to show her in a second, Inbal from, she's from, let me see, let's see, we're going to spotlight you, and we're going to spotlight me, add to spotlight. Okay, I'm going to share this with you now. This is Inbal from Israel. You're on now, Inbal.
Hi.
Welcome her to my live stream. And she has been a participant in the ITAG SIS or set-in sleeve tutorial. And she just finished her sweater and she shared it with me. And it is so unbelievably beautiful. So I invited her here to talk about her sweater and give us some ideas of the process that she went through. And so I'm going to turn it over to her. I'm going to remove me from spotlight. So Inbal, tell us about your sweater.
Hi, thank you very much for letting me participate. My sweater, when you started the KAL, I was very excited because I was following you for a long time. And yeah, I didn't know what I'm going to do. So I took this paper and started sketching like tons of sketches. Nothing like this. I didn't know. I just, just started to sketch and sketch and sketch.
Very awesome.
And then we get to the point where you talked about drafting like a sample to sew a sample, and so I tried to do the armpit and the mat, and I couldn't do it. It was it felt that it's not something. It just didn't came out. So I just thought I'm also sewing my own garments, and why am I not just using the same patterns? I mean, I have patterns. So I took one of the patterns and I could use it for the sleeves, and I took another course by Crafty, which showed how to draft with the knit fabric, not knitting, but knit fabric. So I could manage to do the right darts and everything. So I got something that fitted me well, and that was my starting point. And then I just kept playing with more designs. I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And I don't know if you know, there's a designer which I love her designs. That's the book. I just got the book. And I started looking at how she's playing with textures and with how she plays with the structure. And then I came to something like to this design, which I thought I wanted to do, but because I know my own body, and I know that if I have small waist but larger bust, and if I wear something that is straight on the waist, I just look fat. And I wanted to do something with a waistline, and also if I put just a horizontal line beneath the bust, also it just doesn't look good. So I wanted to do the triangle shape. And so from this one, I just came to this one. And here I already knew that's something I want to do. And I started to develop the patterns. I have many books with stitch dictionaries,
right?
And I just look for something. And also I wanted. Okay, that's a problem in Israel. We never have, it's small shops, and we never have enough yarn of one color. Never. I always have this problem, which I have to take two colors because there's not enough yarn. So
I don't think that's I don't think that's particularly your problem. I find that too. When I go to yarn stores and I want to buy a sweater's quantity of yarn, it's always like one or two skeins short of what I need.
Yeah, right.
Except in the colors I don't like.
Right. Because that's what nobody buys, I guess. Yeah.
Yes.
So I had two colors. I picked two colors. I love this yarn. The green one, it's Secret Garden. It's called Secret Garden, and it was on the summer shelf. So it was, I think, cotton. Maybe it has cotton and acrylic. So I just took it. And the blue one is cotton. So I had to do color work. Now I know color work and I know Fair Isle, but I thought that it's not gonna suit summer garment. So I thought maybe I'll try to do mosaic, and it's the first time that I ever done mosaic.
And I bet you love it now, don't you?
Yeah, it's so much easier working just one color at a time. Yeah. So I started looking at mosaic patterns on the internet, and I started to develop my own patterns. And only when I tried to knit them, I understood what you need. What are the rules for
Right.
designing mosaic.
It'll look good
Because there
on
are
paper,
rules.
but then you go to knit it and it doesn't work.
Yeah. Oh, you can't switch both colors at the same time. Okay. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
So I
how
learned
how
mosaic.
did you work the construction, like where the corner comes up in the middle of the
Yeah.
bottom,
So
and then how do
remember,
you meld that with the construction of the top?
yeah, remember I sent you, I
Yeah.
have it here. I sent you a question because I really didn't know how to do it. It's in one of the pages, but I asked you, how would you do it? Because I thought there were two ways to do it. Either I don't even remember what was the second one. I remember only what I did. So I decided after you recommended it, just to start at the bottom and do the shaping and bind off, and then just cast on the sides and connect them. That's what I did. It's the back and the front, but I also added short rows, and because it's also the first time I work with craft paper, which is amazing because you really have the chart right in front of you in real size, and you can I just sat with the pencil and eraser and just played with the short rows and everything just until I got I got it done. And I think you can't really see the short rows. Like it came out really nice.
Yes, that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But then, like what you were talking about, what we were kind of emailing back and forth, because this is a pattern that you need to publish. It really is. It's stunningly beautiful and it's different. I've never seen anything like it. It's just really, really beautiful. But as you pointed out, when you start putting short rows and customizing it to your body, it's really hard to write a pattern for that. But you could leave the short rows out,
Right.
and you could
When
even,
I wore it, when I wore it, I realized it was the perfect fit, just like I wanted. But it's enough. It has enough ease, so you don't really. It doesn't have to fit. So I think I could lose the short rows.
right.
And actually, maybe it's going to be interesting for people to, just because of the construction, because it's something that's like, it's not common. So maybe people would like to, to experiment how to construct this sort of
Yeah,
garment.
I would knit it. It's gorgeous. It's just really, really, and I'm tall, and that type of thing looks good on me too. Can you show the back? Can you turn it
Yeah.
around so we can see the back? Isn't that beautiful?
But, yeah, the back is the same, and also the sleeves.
Just
I made
beautiful.
it two parts. Yeah, I just made. I wanted it to have the same cut as the body.
Right.
So it is exactly the same. I started with a band. I worked all the way up, and then this piece is a separate piece, which I then sewed together. And I added the embroidery.
You're getting a lot of comments on here. People are saying that how beautiful it is. It's really, it's a work of art. It's a work of art. So, you said you were going to start knitting Frank's sweater too. Have you thought about what you're going to do?
Well, I'm getting. I am getting my yarn this week. I wanted the summer. I mentioned before I wanted the summer garment, and the green one is just so warm. It's impossible to wear here in the summer. But I ordered. Everyone was talking about Pearl Soho, and I just got an opportunity to get some of their yarn. So I ordered 3 types of linen, which I believe is gonna suit our hot summer. Yeah.
Well,
so
thank you. Thank you for joining us. I don't want to make you stay for a real long time, but I want you to come back when you're working.
I will.
On Friday.
I will start. Yeah, I'm gonna swatch, and I'm gonna do Frank's. I'm gonna add the information into Frank's website, and I'm gonna start one with Frank because I've never done a circular garment before, and it's gonna be amazing.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having
joining us, and you can hang out in the Zoom if you want, or you can go to. Let me see if I can move this. I gotta. Whoops. There. Let's see. Let everybody see all of us. This is all of us. So we also have Frank on here. And I'm going to also have another guest sitting right here. Her name is Fatima, and she's from Portugal. So I'm going to go over and we're going to talk with Frank for a bit, and then we'll come back and talk to Fatima, okay? So Frank, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Isn't this fun?
It is wonderful. Yes.
So I started your sweater, and I know quite a few other people have started your sweater. And some people had some questions. I know my friend Jackie was wondering how to measure the arm length, because on yours you measure from the underarm to the wrist.
That's right.
And you and I were sort of talking about that. So explain how you would measure from your underarm.
I know that normally when somebody measures their arm length, they measure around their crooked arm, but you can't measure from your underarm and go around the crook of your arm. So I simply tell people to hold their arm out to the side or let it down and put the tape measure where you think the sweater might fit onto the body. That's just an estimate. Then you measure down to your wrist where you want the sleeve to end, including the ribbing. And that measure is what you put into the website. Then I'm assuming, let's assume first of all that you want a full length sleeve, and it's going to go down to your wrist, and you just want to decide where on your wrist you want it to end. You knit the sleeve, and because you're knitting from the top down, it's already attached to the body, and you can try on the sweater and see if the sleeve, before you start the ribbing, see if the sleeve is 2 inches shorter than where you want it. If the underarm measurement wasn't quite from the right place, you may find out it's a little long or it's a little short, and you can adjust it right then. If it's not long enough, you just knit a few more rows. You don't do any more shaping. You just keep knitting straight. You know, you can do another inch or so, and it doesn't really matter if it's straight at the wrist. Or you can take out a few rows if you need it to be shorter, and then you do the ribbing.
Oops. There you go. You're back.
Am I here? Okay. The only thing to be aware of is that no matter how long you think, no matter what kind of sleeve you're creating, whether it's a short sleeve, 3/4 length, or full length sleeve, you still do the original measure all the way as if you were making a full length sleeve. If you want it to be shorter, you just start as the pattern starts and then stop where it gets to the length you want. So the upper arm, if you entered your wrist measurement and then entered, oh, well, I just want a 4-inch sleeve, you'd be trying to taper down to the size of your wrist at your upper arm. So as you can see, that doesn't make sense. You just create the sleeve as you would go, and then you stop at your 3/4 length if you want a 3/4 length sleeve, or you stop up here somewhere if you want a short sleeve.
Good, thank you. I'm going to add me to the spotlight here. So on me, I like the idea of putting your arm out like this and measuring from here, because then it's easy to see where it connects to your body versus when you have your arm like this, sometimes it's hard. Where are you going to start the sleeve by putting your hand up here? So when you
Yeah.
put your arm out straight like this, it's really easy to see where your arm connects to your body. So I kind of like that idea. So there's
And,
a couple
and
questions here for you, Frank. This is
it's helpful if you have someone who can help you with that, because you need to hold one end and let them hold out the other end, and you see,
yeah.
you can't look at one end and hold the other end at the same time with your arms straight.
Well, you could, some of us live alone, so you could, like I might hold the tape measure in my hand, this way,
Oh,
pull it out
I
this way, bring it up
uh-huh,
this way,
sure.
something like that. But so Sidra has a question for you, Frank. She says,
Yeah.
last week it was talked about using the Henley for a cardigan. For a swatch, I would need to swatch flat for the cardigan and in the round for the sleeve. That's her question.
Hopefully there's not so much difference that it would make a difference in the sleeve. Suzanne, you can
Well, I
say
think
your opinion on
that
this.
for your swatch, for putting in your measurements for the to create the pattern, since the majority of your sweater is going to be knit flat, I would use a swatch knit flat. But for your own information, I would knit a swatch in the round for the sleeve, so that if you do have a large discrepancy in your stitch gauge between knitting flat versus knitting in the round, you'll know about it in advance and not after you knit the sleeves and can see it. So
Yes,
that's what
and
I would
you
do.
can
And then,
make the adjustment fairly
right.
easily
And then
as
you would just
you can
adjust.
adjust the pattern yourself to
Right.
be
So you
either
would either
shorter
go
or
up a
longer.
needle size or down a needle size when you start knitting in the round on the sleeve, if you have a discrepancy between your gauge, your stitch gauge while knitting flat versus your stitch gauge in the round. But if you're going to knit the garment flat, put that gauge into his sweater generator, because those are the numbers that you need.
That's right.
Okay.
I would concur with
And
that.
then Carrie Hogan says, question for Frank. I'm knitting the saddle shoulder sweater and the shoulders are puffed up like epaulets. Will that flatten out with blocking, or did I pick up and knit the saddle wrong? I might have an answer for that. Let me show my hands. Let me see down here. I gotta move this up because that's where I am on mine too. So it'll come on here in a second. So here's my two saddles. And here's my picked up stitches on the edge. And I haven't blocked these or anything yet. And I'm doing this little lace pattern that's going to go, it's going down my saddle and then it'll go down my sleeve, because I'm using this really dark yarn and it's really pretty, but I wanted to have some element in it that you could see. And so I did something. It's a diamond mesh pattern out of one of Barbara Walker's books. So I did that, but they do kind of look like what Carrie is asking. They look kind of bunched up, but I think that when I get my knitting going and get them blocked, I think they're going to be just fine. So I would try blocking them first. And you know what I do when I'm knitting a sweater, because I can't stand to wait until the whole sweater's done to block it. I steam block as I go. You know how when you sew, or any of you seamstresses or what do you call a man seamstress? A seamster, like a teamster, a
I don't know.
seamster. Um, you know how you iron as you sew? You're always ironing as you sew. You iron your seams. You iron. I always have my ironing board up set next to my sewing machine. That's how I am with my knitting. I have my blocking table set up and I have a handheld steamer, and I use it all the time to give me a prelude of what's to come. Now, it's not as good as wet blocking, but it gives me a good idea if I'm on track or not. So let's see here. Demetria has a question.
I was wondering if she has, how much of the sweater has she finished that she's determined has this?
That's a good point. Carrie, how much have you got done? Carrie's a guy. Carrie, how much have you got done on your sweater? A tailor, a male seamstress is a tailor. Thank you. Thank you. So
yeah.
Carrie, have you gotten past these saddles and you still have that problem, or are you at the saddles? And while he's answering, we'll read Demetria's question. She says, for Frank, so we can assume that the amount of yarn estimated by the website will be more than we really need if we're doing shorter sleeves or cropped sweater, correct?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And the estimate is fairly liberal. I tried to include an estimate for a swatch as well. But the reason I say it's an estimate is that I have no way of knowing for sure. I do a calculated guess based on your gauge. And so if your gauge is in a fairly normal range, whatever that is, I make an intelligent guess. But it's a liberal guess, so I don't want anybody to fall short. But you may end up with an extra skein, or maybe two. I don't know. So anyway,
Okay.
the best I could do.
We can talk about that afterwards because I have some ideas that might help you to figure out how to do very accurate yarn estimations for people.
Excellent.
Okay,
That's
so
great.
Carrie says he's halfway down the body. Carrie, it'd be so cool if you could Zoom with us and show us your sweater. Wouldn't that be cool? I wonder how we could do that.
So the shoulders are already shaped. So then you're right. It's only a matter of whether it will come out with blocking. The only other guess I have is that maybe you use too large a chest measurement and the shoulders are too wide, but I hope that's not the case.
Okay, so we're going to talk with Fatima now. She's going to come on here. Hello, Fatima. You're now live. We can't hear you though.
Okay. Hello. Can you hear?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
Hello. Good evening.
This is my friend Fatima. She lives in Portugal, and she is a fantastic designer. She has amazing ideas that she does, and she's also knitting Frank's sweater. So she's going to tell us her thought process and what she's done so far.
Hello. Nice to have here. I want to say thank you for Suzanne and thank you for Frank to create this opportunity to do these things as well. I found Frank's sweater around 19, I guess, and I found this very, very funny process, top down in circular needles, exactly what I like to do. So I did a small version or a size S just for trying, and I love it. I was summer or October, and I really enjoyed to do that. And then, okay, many other things came out, and I put aside. And last April, when I saw that Frank was coming with a new KAL, I just jumped in with the sessions with him. And I decided to sign for the saddle pattern construction in order to find a different way of knitting. The simple one is very easy to do, it's very funny, but I want to learn different constructions. So I decided to go in this with exactly the saddle, as you can see in here. And I don't find any puckering here like Carrie mentioned before. I think at least I don't find anything wrong. This is cotton and bamboo because in Portugal is very warm in the summer, and I'm planning to wear this maybe in July somewhere. I decided to make a lace here that goes exactly along the sleeve. Probably I will make the sleeve a little bit halfway of the arm with lace around. Yeah, maybe or with degraded color or in the same color. I don't know yet what I go to do. And what I decided to do in the instead to cast on according the directions, I decided to make a provisional cast on around, and I cast on for the saddles. I left the stitches here for the posterior cast on, as we do. And instead of cast on here, when they say cast on this and this and this and this, I just pick up along, because here I go to make a small picot around just for finishing, and I didn't want to see the bind off of that because it's cotton and I didn't want. Anyway, so this is very funny to do, and is stockinette stitch if you don't like to do, but yeah, and this, since it's in circular needles, you don't have so much problem if you have gutters or leathers, because it's completely around. So and I will go until down, because this is a top down, and here probably I will introduce the same kind of lace here around, and eventually here on the edge. Not yet, maybe I make a little bit more slim here, but this is a construction different. And when I was doing this, I found out, okay, I cannot do one project only. I need to do at least two. And what I decided, this is cotton, is for summer, and this will go first, I think, but I decided to do with the yarn Malabrigo that I had here already for a long time. I made also the saddles sleeves here, shoulders, and I made garter stitch here in order to get more structure here, because will be a little bit longer. And I cast on exactly as Frank mentioned, the directions, but I decided to make a cardigan, and instead to make the open in the middle, I made, according to the directions, increase one, increase another one, increase another one, increase three, and this one I increase all the other number that he mentioned, and I go to make the open of the cardigan aside. And probably I will introduce a little bit of Suzanne techniques with a pocket or a little bit slim. I don't know yet. So this is the beginning. Both are very funny projects. I love to go to the sessions of Frank. That is very late for me, but anyway, I go. And I'm enjoying a lot, and I'm learning a lot with you, Frank, and with you, Suzanne. Thank you.
Fun, isn't it fun? Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. And as you work through these, we'll have you come back, okay? So
Thank
that
you.
we can
Yep.
see the process.
Yep, I will.
Very
Thank you.
fun, very, very fun. Thank you for joining us, Fatima.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So there's another question here. This is from Tanya. She says, hi, Suzanne, Fatima, and Frank. So I can customize my own sweater with design elements and colors given Frank's template? Super stoked over here if that's the case. That is the case, because his template is just the skeleton. It's a plain sweater, and you can add anything you want, like what Fatima's doing. And I'll show my hands again here. What I'm doing on mine is, and we both came up with this idea independently, although we're using a different design. So these are my saddles, and I want this lace design is going to go all the way down the sleeve. Now my sleeves are going to be 3/4 sleeves, so it'll go down to the beginning of the cuff. And then I'm not going to add any to the body of the sweater, but I just want to, because the yarn is so dark, and this is Volmice lace yarn, so it's a very fine yarn, and the drape of the it's just unbelievably. Let me see if I can make these bigger. If you can see the color of this, it's brown and purple. Let me see if I can. It's the most beautiful yarn. It's just really dark in this picture. I don't have my swatch out here today, but okay, so let's go back to talking with Frank. Let me get off of my, whoops. You know, when I do this, I have all these things where I can move people around and talk to different people. So Frank, let's get you back on here. There we go.
Yes, I didn't go anywhere. I've just been sitting here.
Yeah, yeah.
She
So
moved me in and out. That's fine.
Carrie said he's going to try to post a picture of his sweater on Ravelry. I don't know Carrie's Ravelry name. Carrie, can you give me your Ravelry name, and I can go on Ravelry and try to find your picture. So let's see here. Does anybody else have any other questions or anything they want to talk about? We've kind of zoomed through everything really quickly this week. Oh, Amy Lynn says she's doing lace, the Lurwick shawl. How pretty. Very nice. Let's see if we've got any. Jackie said, Fatima, you are so cute.
Yes, she is.
Yep. So anyway, you can incorporate just about anything you want into this sweater. And so that's why I would like to spotlight people and the different things that they're doing, because I know that it will give you some ideas. If you would like to participate in being spotlighted on your project, just let me know. If you have worked with any of my patterns or anything, you should have my email address. If you don't, you can contact me on Facebook or on Ravelry and let me know that you're interested, because I think everyone enjoys seeing the different thought processes that people work through before they create their projects. I'm still waiting to see if Carrie. So any other questions? This might be Suzanne, Fatima, your ideas will help me through my next patterns in shawl and jackets. Yes. So that's the whole idea. And I think that Frank and I are both on the same sort of page, in that I like to teach you the foundations of knitting and the foundations of different garments. Like all of the ITAG SIS, the ITAG garments that I've done are traditional style garments. We started with a raglan, and you could plug anything into it. You can, once you understand the shape, you can plug anything into it. Then we did a yoke, and then we did a drop shoulder, and then we did set-in sleeves. And it's just understanding the construction of the different shapes. And Frank's is specifically set-in sleeves top down, all at the same time, which is totally awesome, because if you do incorporate some sort of stitch pattern in it, stripes is a good example. They match on the arms perfectly. They will match on the arms perfectly. Or if you're using some other stitch pattern, mosaic knitting is another good example. You could do a garment in mosaic knitting, and the mosaic pattern would be continuous around the chest and the arms. Ruxandra has a question.
May I just stick in a comment here about what you just said?
Yes.
When I designed the website, I, of course, wanted to present the technique of Franco's seamless set-in sleeves. And I knew that I was going to do all plain sweaters, and there are people who like a plain sweater, and it makes a beautiful plain sweater in very different styles. But my real thought was, it will be like a canvas, a blank canvas for someone like you wonderful designers who can enhance it and create color and cables and lace and incorporate all kinds of other things into my blank canvas that I provide for you. That was the original concept that I hoped people would get, and now it's happening. I'm so thrilled.
Okay, so I'm going to switch to me just for a second and go to Ravelry, because I know there are some people who had posted their questions on Ravelry also. So let me get over there, and then I'll share that with you. Let's see, questions for today. So here we are, and let me share this. So here's the questions. So this is Wire Knitter, and she had the question about a pocket, and I am prepared to answer this question today. So now I have a better understanding of what she's talking about. She's asking about, you know, she's always done pockets where you sew the lining separately or sew the front of the pocket separately, and then you sew it onto the garment afterwards. But the way I teach pockets, you knit it all at the same time. So it's all knitted in. So she's got two examples here. I have this example ready to share with you, but once I show that, you'll understand how you can do this example too. So I'll show that in a minute. And here is knit 2B. Is it possible to incorporate a cable in the saddle of Franco's sweater to continue down the center of the sleeve? Absolutely. Just like I'm putting lace in my saddle and Fatima's putting a lace in hers, you could put a cable in instead, or any design element. You could even put an intarsia design element going down the saddle and into the arm if you wanted to. This is from Demetria. For Frank, I want to make the sweater with 3/4 sleeves, and he answered this already. The program tells me to enter the measurement from the underarm to the person's wrist. So that would give you extra yarn, Demetria, and I know she's concerned about that because depending on the yarn, for example, I'm using Wollmeise lace garn, and one skein is 1,722 yards, and if I had to order a second skein because I might need it, that's a lot of extra yarn and expense. So I don't know, and we'll ask Frank when we get back to him in a second whether it would hurt if you actually entered the length of the sleeve that you want instead of the full length, and how that would affect the yarn measurement that he comes up with. And she says she has a suggestion for this. Use a measurement input sheet like the one Suzanne provided with the ITAG SIS with pictures of where to measure. Maybe provide a second input sheet for those who prefer to enter the measurements of the finished sweater rather than letting the program decide. Bugs. The pull down of names only had the original and row of dashes. Adding a new recipient as the error message told me to do was not an option there. Even though I would enter 9 inches for underarm to wrist, it showed 17 inches. So maybe you can look at that, Frank. And this is Deb MCC3, cis knit along question. Would you demonstrate on knitter's scrap paper a crew neckline with nearby shoulder slopes? How do we think through our options of binding off stitches, decreasing stitches, or maybe even using short rows in this area to get our desired shaping? Would you knit one shoulder area and then knit new yarn to knit the second? Actually, yes, you do that. So anytime you have the bottom of the neck edge and you're knitting from the bottom up, you have to at that point divide between the shoulders, and then you're going to work the shoulders separately. And yes, I will answer this question. So what we need to address is the knitter's scrap paper, the pocket, and talk to Frank about, let's go back here. We're going to share this screen. Come back up. So we can get rid of that one. Okay, now I'm having a little quandary here, so I'll Safari, quit Safari. There we go. Now we'll share this screen. Okay, Frank, what would happen if you did put in a shorter length for your sleeve?
Well, you sent me off thinking about that, and my concern is that if you put in your wrist measurement, it would be a funny shaped sleeve. It'd be like.
But what if you put the measurement?
But what if you put in your upper arm measurement like an inch less or something, and you just wanted to go down an inch less, and then you put in a short sleeve? I haven't done it, but I believe that would work. And I do believe that the estimate I do, it calculates the square inches in your sleeve to come up with the estimate. And the calculation is based on the length of the sleeve. So if you're concerned about the estimate being including yarn that you won't use, that would solve that problem. And I'm pretty sure that the pattern would end up being right as well. I hadn't really thought about doing it that way. So that's a very interesting thought. I guess I'd want to experiment with it some myself,
Yeah.
but I believe it would work.
Okay, so we've answered that. So now I'm going to go to my hands and we're going to talk about this pocket. Okay, and I have a sample of a pocket here and I'm going to show you how I constructed this. So here's a little a pocket swatch. And this is the front, so this would be your ribbing down here and the opening of the pocket with the ribbing up the top. And I created the lining in a separate color just so you could see what's happening. So I started from the bottom up and I knitted my ribbing. And when I got to the point where I wanted to start the pocket, and you don't have to start the pocket right at the top of the ribbing, you could start it anywhere, but I chose to start it at the top of the ribbing. Then I turn my work like this. And I use my knitting needle. Let me get a needle here. And the green yarn isn't here yet, just the ribbing, I use my knitting needle and I go down in every purl bump and I pull up a piece of green yarn. I pull up a piece of green yarn. I make a stitch. I'm making stitches onto my needle. I'm picking up and knitting across the back of my work. And so you would really be right at the top of the ribbing, and the only thing you would have are these purl bumps on your needle. They're already on your knitting needle. I move them over to the cable so it's easy to get, and I just go down in every purl bump and I pull up. Here's the stitch that I pulled up, and I pull up a stitch. And then I leave the white yarn on my needle and I work the green yarn. It could be white. I just used green as a teaching example. I work the second piece, the lining, individually to the length that I want it to be. And on each edge, I make garter bumps. So on the right side, I knit the selvage stitch, and on the wrong side, I knit the selvage stitch on both edges. And what that gives me is these garter bumps at the edge of my work. Then I come back to here when I've got my pocket lining to the length that I want, and I work across here, and you can see right here, I did this, and then I knitted the purl bump together with that stitch right here. I knitted them together as one. And then I worked over to here and I knitted this stitch with the purl bump. There's the purl bump right behind it. I knitted them together as one stitch. Work over here and then purl all the way back on the white. And then knit here, knit this stitch with the garter bump, work the white across, and that attaches the lining to the body of the work seamlessly. You cannot see it. If this were not green yarn, you wouldn't notice it through there. Then when I get to the top of where, or about an inch below, or however wide you want your ribbing to be, when I come over and I connect the lining, I start working in whatever edging that I want. And when I purled back on the last row, I bound off. So I finished the top here, and these green stitches were all on waste yarn waiting for me. So then when I work across here, instead of these are bound off, I work across the green stitches or the lining, and then you would continue working up on your garment and your pocket's all knitted in. That's a pocket that's open from the top. If you wanted to do this for a diagonal pocket, like the second picture she showed, you would knit the lining up to the point where you want the diagonal to be. And then you would work the front and you would connect all the way across. And then the lining, then you would stop and connect, finish your lining up to wherever you want it to be. And then when you come over here, you would be finishing off this edge and creating your diagonal, working back and forth. And your lining would connect to the other half over here in the same way that I've connected this. And it makes an totally invisible, knitted in all in one piece. It's a nice secure pocket. And I did this with the stockinette stitch on this side. You could do it with the stockinette stitch on this side if you want. And I've done this also with cable patterns and different patterns on the front here. And I work the lining in stockinette because you don't want a double thickness of cables through there. So I hope that answers that question. Let me get some graph paper here real quick. I'm going to find some graph paper and we'll talk about, I may just use a piece of paper. Here's a piece of paper. When you're designing your neck, so here you have your crew neck. This pin doesn't work. Get a different one. Here you have your crew neck. And let's say that, yes, you want to have short row shaping on your shoulders. This is the top of your garment. So if you're knitting from the bottom up in this direction, you would knit over to here, and then you would bind off these stitches. Then you would pick up a second yarn, starting with a second yarn, and you would work here. And then you would work back and forth until you got to here, and then you would work your short row shaping. And you would do the same thing here and work your short row shaping. Now, let's say that you have your schematic. You have your schematic and you haven't drawn any of this in yet. You haven't drawn your neck in yet, and you know that this is what you want your shoulders to look like. When you decide to put your crew neck in, let's say this is the opening that you want, but you need to add the ribbing to it, right? So you need to add your ribbing here. So this affects this right here, doesn't it? It affects how far up your shoulder's going. So you would be knitting this to here. So you would knit over this way, bind off, start a new yarn and knit this way. And your short row shaping would just go to this point. It would not go to this point. It would just go to this point right here. And I hope that answers that question. Does anybody else have any other questions? Well, let's see. Joe Shamloffel. You could put a pocket on the saddle sleeve for hands-free walkers. Maybe I'll walk now. You can put pockets on anything, you know, so you could put pockets in Frank's garment too. And I have several different pocket designs that I like to do. My favorite one is a diagonal deep pocket. So your ribbing would be here. This is my favorite design. So I do it the same way. So whether you're knitting bottom up or top down, if you're knitting top down, when you got to this point here, you're coming top down, then you would work your garment and you would work down to this point, and then you would start working the front of the pocket and attaching it to the garment. When you got to this point, then you would continue the front of the garment and be attaching the back of the pocket. So I have these written out, and later on this summer, I'm going to be doing a tutorial just on pockets. It'll be several weeks long, and I'll give directions for top down and bottom up on all of these styles of knit in pockets, so there's no seaming at all. Any questions on any of this? I love pockets. Pockets are my favorite. Any other questions? So I don't know. Did we get to see Corey's thing on Ravelry? Corey, because I'd like to see what his top looks like. We'll give him a minute to respond. See if he got on Ravelry. Okay. Well, I'll give about one more minute. If not, Frank, it's a knit along, comes up right after this at 2:30. The address is right there at the top of the screen. It's franco.com/weekly_Zoom_meeting. Okay? And you can join him, and he has a social Zooming going on every Saturday after my live streams. And there's a lot of fun people on there. I'm sure you'd really have a good time. I hope that a lot of people are choosing to work this sweater with us. I think it's going to be really fun. And you can try putting sweaters on your Frank pocket too. And then come back and see us again next week. So I'm going to put everybody back on here to thank them for being here. Let's put everybody back on here. Share my screen. There we go. So we have Inbal and Fatima and Frank, and hopefully we have some more people come on here and join and share their sweaters with us. So come back. Oh, Roxanda had a question above. Oh, let me find it. Our short rows for back, oh, there we go. Our short rows for back neck shaping only used for yoke sweater. I'm not sure if short rows should be used on sis design. No, usually they're just used for yoke or raglan sweaters because those necks don't really have any other, there's no short row shoulder shaping. When you do short row shoulder shaping for a set in sleeve or anything that's knit in pieces, that takes the place of short row shaping that you would do on a garment such as a raglan or a yoke, whether they're knit bottom up or top down. So the shoulder shaping that's done either with a stair step bind off or short rows on garments that are knit in pieces replace the short row shaping that you would do on a garment knit in the round. Any other questions? Thumbs up. We got one thumbs down. It's always good to know that people react, you know, whether it's good or bad. So I'll see you all next week and come back and tune in and see the progress that everybody's made, okay? Whoops. Happy knitting. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.